I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jarad.
and we are the two gentlemen. This is another episode that we're recording while in lockdown. So, again, Jarad is at his place, I'm at my place. We apologize for any degradation in audio quality or chemistry. Now that's out of the way, Jarad, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. In lockdown like the rest of Sydney, but yeah. Just a bit of Groundhog Day, but yeah, it is what it is, and we're just got to get through it. So, same question to you, mate. How are you and the family going?
Yeah, we're really lucky, Jarad. I imagine there's a lot of people who aren't as lucky as us. I get to go to work still.
Yeah,
To me, that's a real privilege. I get to go and see my teammates at work and my clients at work. Even being allowed to drive is quite a privilege at the moment. So I'm doing fine, fortunately. And what about you?
yeah. I'm in the same boat in regards to work, and yeah. Look, it's amazing how much just getting in the car is therapeutic and just makes you feel a little bit normal. But yeah, I definitely feel for the people who are struggling with work and just that isolation. I guess if you were alone, or even if you are in a family unit, that you kind of feel a bit like an island, I guess, and that's. But yeah, going back to if you are alone, that's I'm not experiencing it, but it's definitely a major factor at the moment.
Yeah. And that was one of our motivations for doing this podcast today. We've just to let everyone know behind the scenes, Jarad and I, we try to record a few. We've got a few in the bank, but I feel that the dynamic of the whole city has changed since lockdown. So we really wanted to bring something to you in a different context, that being lockdown, of course. I've spoken to a few people who have reached out, which has been lovely. This podcast has brought people out of the woodwork, which has been really nice. And it's really nice to know that we've struck a chord with some people. And to have these conversations with Jarad has been fantastic for me. And I say this in a non-tokenistic way, well, as non-tokenistic as possible. I really want this to be a dialogue with all the listeners as well. So thanks for everyone for getting in touch with us. And if you do have anything to say to us, please hit us up on the Facebook and Twitter pages.
Yeah. I second that. I've had some great conversations with people who have reached out and said that they love what we're doing. But I'm happy about hearing about the fact that people are loving what we're doing. But I'm also equally happy to hear that people are things that like you said, chords are being struck, and people are we're hitting with subjects we're hitting the sort of nail on the head, and people are responding all different ways, and what might make someone else respond one way turns to another person another way, and it just to hear everybody open up and talk and even think about things, it's a nice feeling, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been great to hear from people, especially people I haven't heard from for so long. And, in that vein, it's made me think about how often do we reach out to people? Quite often we don't call someone unless it's their birthday, unless we've got some news. For the day-to-day stuff, if you don't have anyone to talk to, if you live by yourself or if you're at work and for example, I spoke to a friend last night who I haven't seen for a long time, and he works down at the wharf. So he said 90% of the time he's on his own, which means that he only really interacts with his family when he gets home from work, being in lockdown. I imagine that there are a lot of people in that situation.
Yeah, it definitely would be, and like we said, it's sort of magnified by the fact that we're in lockdown. There's no outlet essentially to go and just see somebody, or so it's important to make those phone calls. I mean, I personally have been. Again, I think it's doing this podcast has made me realize a few things, and making those phone calls, it takes 20 minutes, and it makes me feel good, but it will also make the other person feel good, I hope. And they're not got the shits that I've rung them, but essentially, it's a good feeling. And I remember I spoke to somebody recently, one of our mutual friends from school, and he said to me that, and it sort of struck a chord with me, that we got together last time. One of the last times we got together was at a mate's funeral, and
Yeah.
and we saw a few people there, and this is after the funeral where you start to relax and start to the wake essentially, and you start to reminisce and think of good things and all that sort of thing. But from that point, those 4 or 5 people that were in that group, that was the last time I saw them.
Yeah.
And even right there at the time, we're like, let's not let this time go. This sad occasion is brought us together. Let's sort of stay together as every now and then. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And here I am, 5 years later, speaking to one of those guys, and I'd seen him probably a handful of times since. And that's sad that an experience or bad news or funeral is a catalyst to bring us together. And I'm sure so many people are in that same situation.
Yeah, definitely, Jarad. Yeah, it makes me think how much we take things for granted. Just time. I always think, oh, look, I'll see them next time. I'll call them then. And I was kind of shaken out of that this year with my dad. He got really sick and was close to dying. And I always thought there'd be another time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, there is. But that could have gone horribly wrong. And it did get me thinking about a lot of people. And, if I had any sort of conflicts that were unresolved, it really made me just let go of those things. And I just thought to myself, look, I can't live like that. I can't live with any sort of regret. And, the last time you say goodbye to someone, it should always be a positive, shouldn't it? Imagine slamming the door on your wife or your kids or something and having an argument. And that's the last time you see them.
Yeah. Experiencing things in life, and this is nothing new, I guess, for people that are older than us and have seen this. But realizing the fact that, that the world has a way, I think you've said it in one of the first episodes, had a way of, making you feel small, and the world has a way of sort of showing you that some of those little small conflicts or the fact that, and you said it just then, taking things for granted and taking time for granted. Like I rang a mate 2 days ago and I haven't spoken to him. He lives far away, but I haven't spoken to him probably 3 or 4 months. But I've always been, I'll give him a call, and I finally did. And yeah, like I said, it feels good. And we had a good discussion, and even to know that that he's like, from a distance, you think, oh, they're fine, but they're all going through their own stuff as well, And if I help in that way, as he would help me, it's that's what friends are for, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and that's got me thinking, Jarad. We're talking about loneliness and isolation in a way here with lockdown, but what are the things that fulfill us? I think that's really important to focus on the positives as well. You look like you're doing pretty well in lockdown. What is it that's going well for you?
Well, my firstly, everyone's well in my family, but so that's a major positive. Extended family as well. What's going well for me, like I can still, like we discussed or like we mentioned earlier, I still have this sense of normality that I can still go to a place of work, and do what I do. So that keeps me going. But it is a bit like Groundhog Day, and that can wear thin. But what this is doing to me, it's kind of hit the, in our last lockdown, I did the same thing, but it's a little bit more this time, is you kind of hit the reset button,
mm-hmm.
and you see what actually is important, and, spending time, doing something, how do I put it? What might seem important, but when you look back at it now, it's quite, who cares? So yeah, it's kind of, I feel that I've hit the reset button for many things. And as long as my family's healthy, I'm healthy. I feel this is quite cleansing a little. I don't want to say it and offend anyone who's going through a really tough time, but I'm trying to take the positive out of this situation. And I think, people should try that if they're not. I know it's easier said than done, but it's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got the right mindset, I guess, or the best that you can anyway.
Yeah. So, definitely. And look, I guess I'm going to ask you the same thing, but are you okay? And what are you taking out of this situation?
Yeah, look, I'm very similar to you. I'm a very glass half full kind of guy. I've been lucky because, one, I get to go to work, and two, I've got a stable family life. I can imagine last year when couples or families were thrown into lockdown for the first time, they hadn't actually spent that much time together, ever. Both parents would go off to work, come home, see each other after work, maybe then take the kids to football training or something. And they actually might not, they'd be like, ships in the night, really. And they might only see each other once a week for any extended period of time. Whereas then, you were kind of thrown into it and not really knowing what to do for a lot of people. So I'm really lucky in the sense that we already have the right dynamic. We spend a lot of time together already, so it's nothing new for us. I've been trying to maximize it. I've been, spending great time with the kids. I've been playing guitar, trying to learn guitar. It's been really nice for me. And I guess it's got me thinking, well, how should you feel your life anyway? Like, even if we weren't in lockdown, how does a man, fill the time really? Because there's a lot of it now, isn't there? Used to hunt all day and then sleep at night. And, we'd walk 12 miles a day, which is 16 kilometers, to find the next lot of animals to kill. We were busy. Yeah. And, they say that, the devil will find work for idle hands to do. How do you, what are we supposed to be doing with our time anyway?
Good question. Part of me wants to go out and build stuff. I don't know if I actually like, I don't know what I'm not the handy type, so I don't know what I'm going to build. But part of me, feels like I need to be doing something. And when the whole situation of like, you can only leave your house to go shopping and exercise, and once you do that, what do you do? What do you do? I don't have the answer. I don't, but I guess it's just, like I said, trying to remain as positive as possible. But you are right in saying that a lot of people have lived a life for a very long time where they are ships in the night. And I know our family, after the first lockdown back in 18 months ago or whatever it was, after that, we got really busy. We, made a conscious effort to make sure we were doing stuff and enjoying the stuff, because that was taken away from us for a few months, So it was like, what, I'm going to go back and play my basketball. The girls are going to do their netball. We've got extracurricular stuff for school. My wife's got her sport that she plays a couple nights a week. And then before you know it, it's every night you're doing something. So not only are you spending the day away from your family, you're then ferrying around and the logistics of it. One parent does this and it's nothing new, but we really got busy. And then all of a sudden this happened almost overnight.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
This next one. And then it was like, rip the Band-Aid off. Everything we've been doing is gone. Like, it's like, Tuesday night I can stay home and cook dinner, and Wednesday night, my wife cooks dinner, and there's no like rushing off to, an 8:30 basketball game or a 5:30 in the afternoon training for some sport or extra tutoring or whatever, So, not sure where I'm going with it, but it's definitely, we've had that taste again, and then it's taken away. I suppose it's just putting things in perspective of what you actually really want to do. And at the moment, it's we're probably in a bit of, we're probably in a state of, what do you call it? Like, idling, waiting for the starting gun, I guess, again.
Yeah, just in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, something, a sentence that I've said to a few different people recently is, oh, when lockdown ends, we've got to get together. Every year I ring people on their birthdays and just, give them a quick hello. And you know what? I've not seen any of them. Every single time I ring them, it's, hey, we've got to catch up. Yeah, let's get the family together. Just doesn't happen.
We did that. So, whilst we say that this podcast, we only seen each other once in 10 years or whatever it was, we would periodically message or, comment on something. And I genuinely wanted to catch up with you, and I'm pretty sure it was the same on your behalf. But whatever stopped us is probably stopping the majority of people out there for the same reason. Like, there's no real reason other than time, because we take it for granted.
And that's another question, really. Like, who's in charge of our time? Like, really, the amount of things that you want to do, and you're like, who's the boss of this clock? I feel like it's been taken away from all of us. We're living on someone else's schedule. To not be able to see friends that we haven't seen for so long. And something I've realized is that you need an excuse to see people. Like, if you'd said to me, hey, Kiwi, you want to come, can I come over? We'll sit in your garage and have a chat for a few hours. I'd be like, that's really weird. The
art of the pop in. Nobody pops into someone's house anymore. I don't know. That's how I grew up, knowing that saying. I don't know if it's said differently in other areas, but yeah, I remember driving with my parents. This, obviously before social medias and phones, and it was like, oh, we're in a particular suburb. Oh, so and so lives there. Let's just pop in.
Yeah, wow.
And do you ever remember doing that with your family? You're like right now, the family that, your current family, do you actually get in the car and go for a drive somewhere and then go, oh, so-and-so lives here. Let's just drop in. We always have to call them first or, email them first and make sure that their schedule fits. The pop-in is definitely a dead art.
It's almost considered rude, isn't it, if you don't phone ahead? Yeah. Actually, I do want to give a shout out to one person. Her name's Tracy. She has listened to our podcast and she lives just around the corner. She used to live in our complex and they moved just outside. And she's one person who actually welcomes us when we pop in. Yeah. So thanks for that, Tracy.
Good on you, Tracy. So I've been speaking to another mate, and he said to me along the same lines of what you were saying is, do we need to catch up? And, we always end the conversation with that sort of thing. But he said to me that, look, and it was real serious too. It was like, mate, I just want to tell you something. I'm like, oh, what's he going to tell me? And he goes, I don't drink anymore. And I won't have, if you come over, there won't be beers or anything like that. And, me and my wife have decided not to drink anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's not a problem, mate. I don't necessarily have to have a beer. I'm actually more interested in having a cup of tea and a coffee these days, really I don't go out as much anymore. I don't want to get drunk. But yeah, sure. Because I suppose that what he thinks our relationship might have, we have to have a beer in our hands. And I'm like, mate, we're not at that part of it. And this is a school friend. So this isn't a rugby friend where, like we talked about in previous, where it's, always been sort of, accompanied with that sort of alcohol. And I said, mate, he was really, really concerned about it. And he goes, what if we want to go to the pub? I said, well, we don't have to go to a pub. It was just a really, it was almost alarming how he was really concerned about it. I'm like, we met each other at school, mate. We don't need alcohol. And he's one of the friends that I call a lifetime friend. I don't see him at all enough, but he is a lifetime friend that I've met at school, and we didn't have alcohol then, and there's only the latter part of our friendship is where, he did come along and play rugby as well. And, the alcohol was involved, like previously discussed, but he's not, it's not needed. And yeah, it was very, very alarming that was concerned. That was worrying him, I guess.
Yeah, it's understandable because I guess it's just what you say, let's get together for a drink. But like you said, a drink now for you means a cup of tea or a coffee as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what it means to me. But it brings up something else, Jarad, and that's social anxiety.
Mm.
It's kind of a form of that, isn't it? Where, we don't real. What do you do with another person? One of our very, very good friends, I used to play OzTag with him. And one of the reasons why I played OzTag was because I didn't want to stop seeing him. And like I said, you wouldn't come over to my place and just sit in the garage with me, and I wouldn't just go and meet up with him and, stand around on a field with him for no reason. We needed again, I'll use the word excuse to get together. And that's what I found these days. But it also fills the time, when you've got a set activity, it tells you what you're meant to be doing. So there's no social anxiety there. But for two men to just get together, to be in a room together, or to go for a walk together, what do they do? Do they hold hands? Like, what? There's no real instructions on what two people should talk about. And I think a lot of people get social anxiety because they don't know what to do. You go to a party, what do I do? Well, you grab a drink, so you fit in. But, if you're not in that sort of situation, if you don't have that setting or the social infrastructure there for you, you're kind of just freestyling. So I can imagine that it would be hard for a lot of people to just get together.
I agree with the anxiety part. I think the social anxiety. I mean, yeah, we're probably repeating ourselves, but there doesn't need to be an excuse to catch up with people. And even now, where there's limits on how far you can leave your house to exercise at the moment, and so I think the person you were talking about is the same person I'm about to talk about. Essentially, like we happen to be only that 10 kilometers away. So, we're planning on just going for a walk and, because there's nowhere to go. This situation has really put people into uncomfortable territory, like we can't just go and sit in a cafe and have a coffee because the excuse is, oh, let's go get a coffee, when really you just want to chat. But people don't say, oh, let's go and sit and talk.
Yeah.
People say, let's go get a coffee, but we know what that means. So now, essentially I'm replacing that coffee now with, oh, let's just go for a walk.
Yeah.
When really it's just to have a chat and catch up.
Yeah. It's funny you say that people don't say, let's get together and have a talk.
Yeah.
Well, some people do, and they're called women. It's men. We're not, and I know this sounds really sexist, but we're not as good at talking. And it's funny, I spoke to a friend about this a long time ago. I actually referred to her sister in the drinking episode as a loose acquaintance. And she's, Tori, if you're listening, if we did live near each other, I think we'd be friends. But I was talking to her sister who studied psychology, and I said, why do men talk about sport all the time? Because I find that's when I meet another man, generally it's, did you see the footy on the weekend? Or I'll message someone like just to, without any context at all, just say, like with my brother, for example, I'll just say, wow. And he'll know exactly what I was talking about. He'll know, okay, it was an extraordinary try, or that someone lost when they shouldn't have. And I said, why do we talk about sport all the time? And she said to me, because she's very smart, she said, it's because men need something to talk about. Men aren't used to talking about feelings and things like that. And that gives you an in. And it got me thinking about, evolutionary psychology. And back in the day, we would have been really, really quiet going on the hunt. I mean, you can't talk when you're hunting. You scare away the animals. So the release comes afterwards. And what do you talk about? Well, you talk about the hunt, the event that happened. So that's men for you. And whereas women were not involved in the hunt the same way we were, they may have been back at the campfire. I'm just making up these, who knows how exactly we lived, but let's just say they're back at the cave or whatever it was. They can talk freely. They've got noisy kids around that they're raising, they can deal with all that noise. Whereas men, we were quiet, and feelings weren't really important, were they? Because you offer no utility to us in the tribe if if you need to talk about your feelings. We need you to go and shoot that deer between the eyes. We need you to carry that hog back on your shoulder. We're not here to talk about feelings. We're here to talk about our deeds. So I think the way we evolved has really affected the way you and I today, as men in the 21st century, talk to each other. I don't know. Does any of that make sense to you, or am I just making stuff up?
No. It makes sense. I mean, you go back, like you said, it's all about evolution and, way back. But, isn't that phenomenal that you can actually connect, the way that, we still go, like obviously the world's changed and for the better. And, but yeah, look, the men can sit down and have a chat, but it's almost ingrained in our DNA that we don't. The only time we do, it's kind of masked with what was done on the sporting field, or as you said, in the hunt way back in caveman times. But it's something that it doesn't come natural anyway, and I guess part of the reason, and we've probably said it before, but part of this reason of doing this is to help that and to show that two guys can sit down and have a chat. And I'm seeing that filter through now, where I'm getting contacted from people who are happy to have a chat now. I suppose it's showing, like you've said before, it's showing a little bit of vulnerability and showing that I guess whatever you're going through as a guy who's, are we middle-aged? I don't know. But as a guy around this sort of time, whatever we're going through is most people are going through the same stuff or experience that in some way. And, talking about it really, really does help.
Yep. Definitely agree there, Jarad. The conversation I had with our friend last night, he used the word open up. And, that's a really interesting term to me, opening up. And it's hard to open up. And you need a whole new vocabulary in order to open up. I feel that, it's funny with my kids being homeschoolers. We talked about this I think it was the first episode, where people will ask, how do they make friends? And this whole conversation today has got me thinking, how do any of us actually make a real friend? Like, how do we don't model it at school, do we, to open up? In terms of actual social skills, where do we pick them up in order to learn how to connect with a person and then to build on that connection? I feel that everything we learn as a man, I've seen from, like, everything I've picked up is from movies like The Hangover or beer commercials and gambling ads, where it's four guys doing something a bit silly. It's a particular dynamic between them, and then there's a little hook at the end. That's not real life. That's not how people hang out, and that's not how men should be talking to each other.
I think the way that like trying to make a friend, and you said it with the words opening up. I think when you look at you've got a lot of people that are friends, but there's some closer friends, and some people feel it more than others, but you might have opened up to that person in your way, and then you've both been kind of vulnerable in a certain degree. So it might have been 10 years ago that this person helped you get through something. That person might not have even known that, but behind closed doors, you're like, Jarad really helped me with that one, or he's a good egg or whatever because of this, or you've seen, so real close friends that sort of are ingrained in your in your life. I think you have been vulnerable with them in a certain degree, all different and all different levels, because that's just the way, melting pot of life. But I think opening up is the key to friendship, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever found any barriers to stop you from opening up?
Anxiety would definitely be up there, or fear, like embarrassment. So, we talk about what people see from the outside, and like for me personally, I'm not supposed to be vulnerable, like from the outside. That's just a stereotype. Like, that's not at all how I feel, but that's the way it is. And I guess for me, it would be being vulnerable in front of people. So the anxiety that comes with that and the embarrassment that comes with that would probably be something that's pretty common, I guess.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think the thing with making friends is quite often we try to mirror what's happening for us. So in a particular situation, you're going to try to match that energy. You know, if you're meeting guys on a football field, well, it's, you know, you're warriors. You know, you're there to fight, and you might talk about things related to the fight. So you're not necessarily going to start talking about your feelings there, are you? And where does that happen for men? Maybe that's why alcohol was developed, you know, because it was like, this is an excuse for me to lower my guard, and whatever I say here doesn't count. You know, you can't use that against me because I was drunk.
Good point.
Yeah. But it's really hard to know how to actually connect with someone, I find. And my eldest son has asked me to do a talk on friendship. He's 12 years old now. And it's not something that I've ever scientifically broken down, how to be a friend, how to make a friend. What do you do with your friends? How do you talk to your friends? And it really got me thinking, you know, we are just expected to learn this just on the fly, just at school. And generally we're thrown into a situation, you're expected to know what to do. And over years and years of experience, it's meant to, you know, you're meant to be an expert in this. But as we've seen, you know, if people don't have a drink in their hand, they don't even know what to do. Look, Jarad, another point I've got is you can have friends and never feel like you've expressed your authentic self. You know, you can have a partner and feel like you've never really truly connected with someone. You know, you can have kids and never be emotionally available to them. It's, you know, this whole thing is it's just brought up so much for me that it's not just having people around you, it's genuinely connecting with them.
Well, I agree, because I you know, you do come across people in life that, you know, seem to have a lot of friends and seem to always be, you know, with somebody. But yeah, you can feel, they can feel that loneliness, and I think it's got to do with, you know, some people, going back to the anxiety thing, they're putting on a show for the public, and it's all about how they perceive or how they are perceived by people around them. So, you know, the crazy party guy, or the guy that's always, you know, growing up always had a girlfriend or a partner and always seemed on top of everything, always had the quick one-liners. Like, at the time, you're like, oh, that guy, you know, he's got his head together or got his head screwed on and everything together. But really, like, as you go up, you think, you know, like they've almost sort of, you know, they haven't really opened up at times. And I think maybe that might affect their friendships, you know, as well. So, yeah, I think that definitely plays a part in the loneliness, because, again, you're talking about somebody who's on a high and they're showing the world how great they are, which they are. But then when there's no one else around, that can definitely have an effect on, you know, your mental state.
For sure. And it makes me wonder what's actually connecting there. It's just two fake personalities connecting rather than, you know, getting to know each other.
And that's okay at certain points. Like, there's nothing wrong with the whole, you know, being on top of the world and having another person with you that's at the same ilk and, you know, bouncing off each other and having a fun time. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I just think that on the reverse end can sort of attribute to loneliness when that's not around. So, you know, like, I get it that, you know, and there's times where I've tried to be on show because you feel nervous. So you're like, oh, I need to sell myself more or, you know, and whatever. And that's life, I guess, at times. So you got to sell yourself to get your job. You got to sell yourself to, you know, like all this stuff, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. Look, Jarad, one of the motivations for doing this podcast with you, with all the natural conversation that we've had, is that I wanted to show people that I don't have it together. You know, like, no one's really No, there's no one out there who just knows what they're doing. I might be an expert in one field. I might be really, really good at football, for which I'm not, but let's just say it's football. That hero that you've got that's really good in that one particular field, it doesn't make them a complete human being. All the elements that come together to make a human being is, I don't have it all together. I really don't. And I really wanted to make sure that, we had these authentic conversations where people would go, oh, wow, like Kiwi really doesn't know what he's doing.
Mate, who has it all together? Tell me. And that again is the reason that we want to show people that it's okay to feel happy and awesome one time, and then the next day it's okay to be a little bit off.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And we're all in the same boat. That's the thing. That's what I really wanted to get across to people. It's like, you know what? All your insecurities, all your doubts about yourself, we've all got them. It's fine. A friend of ours came over once in a moment of, I guess you'd call, crisis, and he's called me for a few of those, and he said to me, I'd love to come over one day when I've got my life together. And it did get me thinking, what does that mean to have your life together? Does it mean that you've got all your finances together? Well, there's totally, rich people out there with mega yachts who are depressed.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. There's rock stars and movie stars who, hate their jobs and lives. And you think, wow, I thought you were doing fine. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know what it means to have all your life together. I just think it's just important to be honest with each other and try to connect in that way.
I think what I picked up from that is, and you do think that, and I've had people say the same sort of thing. What I pick up is going back to connecting to what we're talking about, taking time for granted. How much time do you need to get your life in order? Or how about you just live in the moment, and speak to that person now, because we want to talk to each other now. Like, I don't care that you've got bills coming out of your backside. I don't care that, I'll gladly shout the coffee this time around. I don't care that, you've separated from your partner. You're still the same person, and waiting to have your finances in order. I'm just using these examples.
Sure.
It might take 6 months, and then in that 6 months, what's happened, and then before it's a year. And so I guess just don't take time for granted, and use excuses to stop seeing each other or talking to each other. I think that's what I'm getting out of this conversation today.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jarad. And like I said, I wanted a particular lockdown episode of the podcast, and I think that really summarizes it all, really. Something else that comes with loneliness, Jarad, with the isolation, especially with the internet, is that you can go to some pretty dark places. When you're by yourself late at night with your laptop or your iPad or phone out or whatever, you can end up looking at things that aren't really good for you, but they might resonate with you in some way. And it can end up changing the way you think. It can validate one of your emotions. Perhaps if you're feeling lonely, it can validate a part of you that doesn't fully get processed. And you can end up, look, let's just be blunt, joining a cult. You can end up following some people who definitely shouldn't be leaders, but all they want is followers. You can end up with some pretty dark thoughts, and you can end up with a certain worldview that can disconnect you from even more people and make it harder for you to form relationships in the future, because you're so fixated on connecting the dots in a particular way that you don't see the whole picture. You just see the bit that validates perhaps your loneliness or what you feel is keeping you down. So I just want to say to anyone out there who's perhaps, gone down that rabbit hole, just consider that, the world is bigger than just, after dark internet. It's bigger than the internet. It's bigger than those forums that you may have visited and have said some pretty awful things that, well, in my eyes are awful, but to you, they're valid. So said some things that might strike a chord with you. So just consider the bigger picture if you can. And it's really hard when you're going through something emotionally and feeling quite dark, if you're feeling lonely. So I really wanted to make sure that, I really wanted to put it out there that it's something to be aware of. And if you are in that situation yourself, I hope that you can take a step back and maybe see the bigger picture.
I'll just add to that, taking a step back. almost put yourself in a situation that if someone that you know was doing what you were doing, like, and going through what you were going through, what advice or what help would you give them? Because I know that me personally, I'm good at talking to people and giving advice. But when I go through things, I do, struggle with some things, and it's not, it's not nothing wrong with that, but it's just being able to step back and make that decision with a bit of a clearer vision, rather than being in the moment and being, having a little bit of a tough time and having that computer, iPad, phone in front of you and the world at your fingertips.
Yep. And just know that there are people out there who are taking advantage of that loneliness, of that, I suppose, those emotions, and that they can work on that and they can manipulate you into doing what they want. So please keep that in mind. And look, Jarad and I, we're two random guys on the internet. We're not anything but that. We're not claiming to be anything but that. But we do have the best of intentions. We try not to tell anyone what to do. But so if you do feel that we are, I'm really sorry. But just please take a step back for your own good. And if you see yourself still heading in that direction and it's what you want to do, that's up to you. We certainly wouldn't tell you that you know who you should be, but I just want you to be careful. That's all. Just before we finish up, I just wanted to add, we're really, really enjoying everyone's support, and it's been great hearing from you. If you can, please like, subscribe, follow us on all of our socials, which is YouTube, Twitter, the Facebook page, and please share it with anyone you think might get anything out of this.
I second that.
Awesome. And again, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here for you. We really are thinking of you. Like I said, it's not in a tokenistic way at all. There's been so many great people that have got back in touch with both of us. So please continue to do so. And yeah, we'd love to give you a shout out. And if you've got any ideas for what you'd like us to talk about, if there's anything you'd like us to address that you've been thinking about, feel free to share it with us. And we'd love to address it here.
Yeah, totally. Completely open to that. And I think that's a really a good way of getting involved in the show.
Awesome. I just want to add, today happens to be Jarad's birthday, so happy birthday, mate.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. I'm last 2 years we're in lockdown, so does that mean I'm only 39 still? Or?
You look like you're 21, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The oldest, 40-20.
All right. Thank you so much, Jarad.
Thank you, buddy. See you later.